I'm syncing up the audio and the video because I'm recording them differently. Not that you need to know that, but also my face is really dry, so hopefully you can't really tell it's peeling. I've double moisturized, but it's still peeling. Okay, let's begin. Hey guys, welcome to episode 2 of the Unplanned podcast. First of all, thank you so much for your kind and supportive reception of the first episode. It was really scary and exciting at the same time, but I am glad I put it out there, and it kind of brings me to the theme of this episode, which is to start before you're ready, because honestly, I was not ready at all. I felt like I could have prepared a lot more. I could have done a lot more behind the scenes work before I launched, but I've gone through enough moments in my life and business now that I really value the importance of starting before you're ready. So I want to dive into that a little bit more to help you, especially if you're a perfectionist or you just have insecurities or fears that hold you back. First of all, it's really important to identify why you're putting something off or why you're not jumping into a project and just getting started. There are a number of different factors that could be stopping you from starting something or even just launching something. So a really good example that I see happen to a lot of people is they're trying to launch their website, whether it's for their shop or just a personal portfolio. What people tend to do is really spend a lot of time working on their website. You know, it's an important part, making it look pretty, making sure you have the right copy and images, but people tend to spend a lot longer than needed on the website. And they're so set on making sure that the website looks and feels a certain way before their launch. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I'm talking to the people that use it as an excuse not to launch. And this applies to anything, not just a website. I'm just using that as a specific example, but I know people that will not launch because they want to work on the website a little bit more, make this font bold or make it a little bit bigger. But in the grand scheme of things, like if you take a step back and think about it, those things aren't completely essential to whatever you're launching. And I think it's much more beneficial and valuable to launch faster than to spend that time instead trying to perfect the website when these tiny little details don't always make the biggest difference. I think we have a bad habit of procrastinating in ways that we think we're being busy, but we're actually not. We're just delaying the scary big thing that we don't want to do. And a website is one of those. A personal example of mine is when I wanted to start a YouTube channel. It's technically my second, but we're not going to go into that. It was really scary for me. I wanted to do studio vlogs. Did I feel ready? Absolutely not, because I was working out of my mum's garage. It was really dark in there. It was really messy. I didn't really have many products to list in my shop. I didn't have many products in my shop, and I felt like my day-to-day was really boring. I didn't really have anything to show on my studio vlogs, but there was this nagging feeling. I honestly at the time said to myself, I'll do a studio vlog, like I'll start making studio vlogs when I move out, when I have my own studio, then I'll do it because it'll be nicer, it'll be more interesting for people. People don't want to see me work in a garage where it's really dark and it's really boring. But, you know, the rest is history. Obviously, I did do it. But the reasoning behind that was there was this nagging feeling of I can learn so much more if I start now rather than push it off to later. And I started to reframe it as, okay, my life's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, even though I think, oh, once I get my studio, it's going to be perfect. And I thought that that was the ingredient I needed in order to make studio vlogs, but it was just an excuse I was telling myself. So I reframed my studio vlogs to be more of me documenting my journey. And some of you that have watched me from the beginning know that that's exactly what I've done. And if I didn't start making studio vlogs when I did, in my mum's garage, I probably would not be here where I am today. It has been a really important learning experience for me. I have learned so much along the way from the very beginning than if I had just waited until I felt ready. And what I've learned in hindsight from a few other similar experiences like that is that most of the time, probably all the time, you'll never feel ready. There's not going to be that one light bulb or switch flipped moment where you feel absolutely ready to take on the project that you've been avoiding. If you've been avoiding and procrastinating and being busy but not really productive, then most likely you're not going to feel ready. And from personal experience, from other similar moments when I have started before I was ready, when I launched before I was ready, I have never regretted that decision because I had the advantage of time. I might not have been ready, but if I didn't launch or I didn't start this one project until a few months later or a year later, that time period, those few months or that year was an opportunity for me to learn and grow and get better and improve, because nobody starts something absolutely perfect the first time. And I know that's a big thing that holds people back. They don't feel like they have the right space. They don't really have the right equipment, but they forget that everyone starts somewhere. No one's first video will hardly ever does anyone start something and they're amazing the first time. And I think that's really important to remember. And you need to remind yourself everyone starts somewhere. My first video, pretty terrible, but I'm proud of it because I took that scary step of starting and just doing it. And have I improved since then? Absolutely. So I don't want you to look at my vlogs now and think that that's the standard for starting, because I've had over a year experience and that's what people forget. They might compare themselves to, let's say, just artists on Instagram. They compare themselves to artists on Instagram who are on a very, very different journey, who are at a very different time of their life, and they forget that there are years of experience and learning and mistakes and failings behind that you don't necessarily always see. It's not always obvious. So I think it's important, no matter what you do, to remind yourself that everyone starts somewhere and everyone is at a different stage of their journey and their life. Everyone's journey looks completely different, and that you're just going to get better the more that you do something. Here's another example of mine for this podcast. I was not really prepared. Not really. I had enough to just kind of get started, but because I have the advantage of hindsight and I know how my previous projects have went, I had the belief that I could figure it out as I went. And that's exactly what I'm doing. You've got to start to practice trusting in yourself, trusting the process, and trusting that no matter what the outcome will be, that you will be okay and you will learn so much along the way. And that nobody is perfect when they first start. When I did my very first podcast for my Patreon, it didn't sound like this. I didn't talk like this. It took months and months of practice before I felt like I could talk in a complete sentence. And I still remember very vividly when I first started talking on camera in my studio vlogs, I struggled a lot to talk to the camera and to keep eye contact. And some of you know that, and some of you remember that part of my journey, but it's easy to forget when you only see where someone is at a different stage of their life. And it's easy to put so much pressure on yourself, but you need to allow yourself to just start somewhere. Start before you're ready. Obviously, do some preparation, do some planning, but don't be excessive about it. Don't spend months and months delaying and procrastinating and being busy and not really launching or doing that thing that you really want because you're scared. And we'll go into, in a future episode, more about your fears and the self-limiting beliefs that are holding you back. But I want this episode to be a reminder that everybody starts somewhere. Nobody is perfect the first time they do something. If they are, they're an anomaly. I can't say that. They're an anomaly. Yes, they're not the standard. They're the exception. So it is perfectly normal to do something for the first time and be completely bad at it. That's fine. That's called growing. And the next time you do it, you'll get a little bit better, and it might take some time, but then you need to allow yourself to just start somewhere. So I hope you found that useful, that little bit of tough love, that little kick in the butt to get you started if you've been holding off from doing something. Next week, I'm going to answer a question. We're going to be alternating. So this week was my ramble, my personal little ramble, but next week we're going to do a Q&A and we're going to keep alternating that way. Thank you so much for listening and for joining me this week. I'll be seeing you the same time, I hope, next week. Don't forget that you can send me voice messages through my Anchor link or through my email. Thank you for listening and goodbye.